Happy Friday, y'all. All right. We are here back at the Inner Circle Collective. We're going to be talking about debt management mechanisms. I do apologize first off that I'm late. I was in another meeting and got caught up, and now I am here. So my time is 12 p.m., and of course, I'm going to honor that time unless otherwise specified. So I do profusely apologize. But before I get started, of course, I am your legacy builder coach, LaShawn E. Michael Esquire. Remember, we are here to help you reflect. We want you to develop, we want you to grow, and we want you to grow together. Of course, this is a sacred space where we are going to be dealing with the five pillars: finances, which I'm your financial coach. We're going to be dealing with career technology. We're going to be dealing with spirituality, relationships, and wellness. So now that we got this out of the way, let's get on to the debt management mechanisms. Of course, y'all know we are still doing the shopping freeze challenge. This week, you were supposed to be doing no online shopping. So please let me know if you have been honoring that, but no online shopping, okay? And remember, we are continuing each step of the shopping freeze, and we're going to carry it until the end of the month. So we got one more challenge coming up next week, and I will let y'all know that on Wednesday. But this week was online shopping. Of course, last week was subscriptions. First week we did no treats. That should continue. Don't cancel one out because you started something else. But online shopping, so no Amazon, etc., unless you desperately need it, prescriptions, etc., but nothing else. No buying the clothes, no books, no anything, no online shopping. So let's get into these debt management mechanisms. Of course, we have been talking about for the month of January 2026 debt mechanisms and debt management, excuse me. And this week we had started the conversation in regards to debt management mechanism. Last week we talked about tools and of course just trying to understand some techniques to get out of debt, because the goal is to get you from debt to investing and saving and then to estate planning. There's baby steps here, and we're trying to get you to those things, because once you get that in, your relationship with money changes. Because remember, the goal for the first quarter is to reimagine your relationship with your money. We got to get more into a posture of saving, particularly in the treacherous times we are in. We have to get to a point that we are not just out here frivolously spending. So this week we talked about debt management mechanisms. The first two we talked about, of course, debt management programs. We talked about this at Lyft on Wednesday. A debt management program is designed to help you lower your debt and also consolidate your debt into one monthly payment. So what that means is you call them, you tell them what your debts are, you outline all your debts, and then you all work together to negotiate lower payments, lower interest rate, and making sure you consolidate your debt, that you're paying one amount per month. So for example, you have $2,000 worth of debt, you want to get it down manageably, you might want to do $100 a month until you pay that $2,000 off. A debt management program can help you with that. Now let me use a caveat. A debt management program usually does not work unless you have 10,000 plus more dollars in debt. Let me say that again. Usually a debt management program does not work unless you have $10,000 or more in debt, particularly credit card debt, revolving debt, unsecured or secured debt. Okay, so 10,000 plus dollars usually is what you need for a debt management program. May or may not affect your credit depending on your circumstances when you contact them, and it is to help you get a monthly payment until you pay the debt off. Okay, so debt management program. We then talked about debt settlement program. Totally different ball game. Will have negative credit impacts on your score and your report, because basically what you're doing is asking the company to pay a lump sum to cancel out the remaining balance of your debt, and that will have a negative consequence. As we talked about on Wednesday, is that remember, your debt to credit ratio utilization is 30% of your credit score. So if you're getting teetering above 30%, you will see a significant change in your credit score, sometimes 10 to 20 points. So you want to keep your debt to credit ratio utilization down below 30%, ideally 10% on each card, ideally. But if you have to max it to the point no more than 30%, because the minute you get over 30% with any credit card, your score is going to be negatively impacted. But as for debt settlement, if you use a debt settlement program, it is going to cancel out the majority of your debt. You're going to pay a lump sum, and then you are done. And what will happen is that you more than likely will have a negative impact on your credit score, okay? Then we talked about hardship programs. Hardship programs work just like student loan deferment. You basically calling them and you're saying, I need temporary relief. I cannot pay this for whatever reason, whether it's medical, etc. I cannot pay the debt, and I would like for this debt to be adjusted, that I am paying either little to nothing or defer the payment off until I'm able to be in a better financial place. So that is a hardship program. Next thing we talked about was debt restructuring. Of course, debt restructuring again is basically modifying the terms of your debt. So what that means is if you want to lower the interest rate, you want to lower the monthly payment, you want to extend the time out for your debt. So maybe you have a 5-year personal loan, you want to extend it to 7, and those things definitely will change the amount you will have to pay per month. That is a debt restructuring. That is just moving things around, whether it's interest rate, whether it's payment amount or payment time, to help minimize the amount of money that you're spending. The goal is to lessen the debt with a debt restructuring. And then, of course, we talked about bankruptcy. Bankruptcy was the last post that we talked about and that we're going to get into, whether it's a chapter 7 or chapter 13. The issue with a bankruptcy, you know, it will last on your credit report and affect your credit score up to 10 years. Sometimes the minimum will be 7, sometimes 5, but up to 10 years. And remember that a bankruptcy is a court supervised review either of a cancellation of debt for you or a reallocation of debt or reorganizing of the debt, and that will be monitored by a court system. You will have to attend court, you have to file it in court, either chapter 7 or 13, dealing with the bankruptcy. And how that works is you can go through a lawyer, but most people just go to the local courthouse, go into Superior Court based on whatever your amount of debt is that you're filing bankruptcy. And remember, bankruptcy provides protection for your other assets. So if you have a home, if you are working somewhere, a bankruptcy helps prevent garnishment of your wages. It helps prevent you losing your home. It shields certain things away from the taking of the money. Okay, so if you couldn't pay a bill this way, the simplest way to explain it is if you could not pay a bill this way, how would it work? Well, you would go in and you'd be like, okay, I'm going to now pay this bill and I'm going to now send this somewhere else. And so the goal is to send it at a place where you can be at a place that you don't have to worry about that. So that is why it's important to make sure that you realize that your goal is to make sure that you are putting this in a place and putting in a protective place, that you are not putting this in yourself in jeopardy in regards to what you need to get done in regards to your debt. So you want to make sure that you are putting yourself in a place that you are protecting your assets. That is the point of a bankruptcy. However, negative credit impacts. The negative credit impacts will last plus up to 10 years, meaning any big ticket items that you would like to purchase, a home, a loan for your child if you wanted to get a student loan, or for yourself, any kind of loan, there will be some type of harm. Now, I told you all, I know cars are a big purchase item for people, and it is. Most people are paying on average $25,000 to $35,000 for a car that has a little features in it. However, remember I told you on Wednesday, anyone can get a car. Anyone can get a car. And so usually a bankruptcy may not preclude you from a car. Now you may not be able to get a luxury car, but you should be able to get a car. So the goal is just to make sure that you're at the place where you are able to get what you need for your family. But those are some debt mechanisms that we talked about this week, and the reason I wanted you all to be clear on those, because again, This is something that you have to realize that can put your family in a place that you just cannot afford to be. So you want to make sure that you are putting your family in a place that you are not paying this debt, and this debt is going to a place where you're going to be in a crunch. And so I want you to remember that bankruptcy should be the last resort, not the first resort of filing something. It should be the last resort. Don't put yourself and your family in a posture that you have to then look at this and say, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Because now I'm in a place where I need to do something different, and I now trying to figure out where to go with this. So we have been talking about this because the debt mechanisms are to help you and assist you is the last resort. Particularly all of these programs that we talked about this week are last resorts to debt management. So remember, you need to cure this, and the plan is to budget, to pay more than the minimum, to consolidate if you need to, and utilize the methods that we talked about last week to avoid you being in a spot and in a place that you are now looking at these mechanisms, particularly bankruptcy, because bankruptcy puts you in a posture that is so limiting in regards to how it works. And I just don't want you all to think that's the end cause. When you hear a celebrity filing bankruptcy, it just puts you in a posture of, okay, this is going to work out for me and this is not going to be bad. The problem is that it just takes you to a place that we just don't want to go. And you want to think of some alternatives in regards to bankruptcy. And of course, declaring bankruptcy just puts you in a place where you just don't know how this is going to affect you long term. And again, what we know for sure is that it puts you in a posture of that you wind up knocking yourself out of some dreams that you may have for yourself, because you have now said yes to doing this, and it may not be the thing that you need to do at this time. The other thing I want to encourage you on is that you need to make sure bankruptcy is the right choice. I do not take this lightly. If you have a place that is putting you at a structure that you just cannot get out, that is the concern. The other thing I wanted to talk to you all about bankruptcy, of course, we talked about Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. These are two types of personal bankruptcy, which is what most people file. So Chapter 7 is liquidation. It's getting ready. It's a straight bankruptcy. It's getting rid of everything that is non-exempt assets. Chapter 13 on the other side is reorganization. So each, process is basically, one is liquidation. The other one is basically, let's reorganize and see if we can restructure your debt. The main thing that what is required for most bankruptcy filings is mandatory counseling. So this is something that you're going to have to talk to someone about, and you're not going to be in a place that you cannot avoid it. You're going to have to get credit counseling within 180 days of the filing. That's number one. Then, of course, there's a file petition. As I told you, this is a court-supervised process. So whether you file Chapter 7 or 13, it is court-supervised, okay? And then once you file this petition, it lists all your assets. It tells the liabilities, income, and expenses. So it's a budget in the inverse. Now it's telling you what are your losses, what are the things that you're dealing with, etc. And then it's an automatic stay placed on your assets that the creditors cannot collect at this time, okay? And then you will have what's called the 341 meeting, or what's a meeting of the creditors, to determine which debts are going to be dealt with, and they're going to take this under oath to hear what they are requiring, okay? For Chapter 7, if it's a liquidation, you're selling off things, okay? So you will sell off things to pay the creditors. If it's a Chapter 13, it's a repayment, and you are getting a trustee to manage your debt to pay this back. And then you also can have a discharge. It can basically, the court can rule that they want to discharge the debt and from your personal liability, and you will not have to pay it. Of course, the consequences we told you before: credit damage, non-dischargeable debt, the cost to do this, and then asset protection. Of course, many of your assets will be protected by state or federal exemptions. So some of them, as I said, will be a house, etc. So remember that this is a process, and it takes a while, and it's expensive. So again, you're going to have credit damage. You're going to have some debt that's not going to be wiped away. And again, you're going to have to go through some counseling. You're going to have to do all the things that if you would have done on the front end, you would have been at a better place. So again, bankruptcy is the absolute last resort. Chapter 7 is, again, liquidation. That means sell off everything. Chapter 13 is let's reallocate, let's reorganize, and see what needs to be done. But again, there's a deeper process. As I said, you're going to have to go through counseling. There's going to be a petition filed with the court, and they will be monitoring this process. Then there will be a stay of the creditors even making you pay anything. So all your debts will kind of be frozen in this place until they have this 351 meeting to determine and see what you owe creditors, and it will be taken under oath. Then there will be, let's now try to deal with the debt, and you will be making a decision whether you're going to be filing Chapter 7 or Chapter 13, and it's going to be whether you're going to liquidate or repayment, and then you can also have a discharge, and that's what will happen at the end. Again, Chapter 7, report stays on, it stays in your credit report for 10 years. Chapter 13, as I told you, is usually 7 years to 10 years. Chapter 13 is 7 years, because remember, Chapter 7 is a liquidation. That means it is just selling off everything, and that stays for 10 years. But for Chapter 13, when you're doing a kind of reorganization of the debt and you're paying some things off, and then some things will be exempt, that lasts on your credit 7 years. So, of course, Chapter 7 has the harder consequence. So that's what we learned this week in regards to debt management mechanisms. We're going to finish the conversation next week in regards to debt management tools and things that you could do in alternative to help you with your debt management. We'll be addressing that next week. Again, meet me here every Wednesday at 10 and on Fridays at 12 p.m. In regards to dealing with topics of the month. And as I told you all, we will be moving right along with the topics. For January is debt management. For February, it will be investing and saving. So you know what you have to look forward to. We will have the last spending free challenge of the month next week. And as I said, we have had 3 so far that you need to keep going until February 1st. All right. But just a reminder, we will love to have you at the Inner Circle Collective. Please consider joining the page, the business page at Inner Circle Collective. And if you become a member, it is $39 per month for a subscription. And I have to let you all know that is the founders fee, and it will go up February 1st up to $47. So please be a fast taker. Take this in now. If you get and join today, you freeze the price of $39 for the subscription per month forever. So even if we go up to $100 per month, you will still be at the founders fee of $39. Also want to let you all know, next Friday at 6 p.m., I will be doing a class in regards to debt management, getting deeper, giving you more examples, and explaining this at a greater length. It will be via Zoom, and it will be primarily for the private group. So this is why it's important to join the Inner Circle Collective, because you will have a portal. We will be having a community event like we had last night with all the coaches, and we will be doing all the things under those 5 pillars. As I told you, finances, I'm your legacy builder coach. And then we will have wellness from Gwendolyn Althea. We will have technology from Christy Davis. We will have career from Denise Merriweather. And then we will all be talking about spirituality as one of the things. And then relationships is another conversation we'll be having. All things that all people are talking about. This is a sacred space. Your information is confidential because it is a closed private group. And again, you will be getting classes, material, you will have access to all videos, you will have access to all coaches. So again, we want you to join. It's $39 a month. That will end January 31st, February 1. new price. So if you're interested, please click the link that is tapped at the top of this live broadcast and go ahead and join now. You won't regret it. It is going to be a transformative experience, and we are here to grow with you together. You are in community, and where a community grows together, they stay together, and we would love to work with you and work alongside you to be the best you can be, because right now nothing is wrong with you. You are perfect just as you are, but to be better and to have a more transformative life, you need us in your lives, and we would love to have you. All right. Have a great weekend. I'll see you all next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Sorry for the delay again. Debt management mechanisms, that what you learned this week. And remember that the shopping freeze is continuing until the end of the month. Online shopping. Cut it out, at least for this weekend. And be careful. A lot of us are in the storm track, including us in Atlanta, Georgia. So y'all be safe, and I will see y'all next week. Shout out to my cousin Alvina. I see your post. Thank you so much. And thank you for the continued support. Have a great weekend, you all. Bye for now.